We've been waiting 9 years for Inside Out 2, and it was worth it. What's going on, guys? My name is Rodney, and if you already knew that, thank you so much for coming back and watching another video. And today, Inside Out 2. I mean, I'm so happy. If you know anything about me, which you probably don't, Inside Out is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 5 Pixar movies, and it seemed like a cut and dry story, and it was over in 2015. It came out, it set the world on fire. It was classic Pixar, made you laugh, made you cry, adult humor, kid humor, the perfect movie. And then a couple years ago, they announced Inside Out 2 was coming, and I was scared. Scared because it's hard to recapture the magic of the first one. Pixar has not been doing that great since they decided to drop a bunch of movies strictly to streaming. Even though some of those movies like Soul were really, really good, it didn't have the magic. Pixar was starting to lose its luster in the public eye. Movies like Lightyear and Turning Red didn't really do it for people. And here we are in the year 2024. The box office needs a little boost. Bad Boys for Life helped out for sure. Inside Out 2 comes along. Is it as good as the first one? I don't think so. I just rewatched the first one the day before this one. Just showed it to my friend for the first time. He absolutely loved it. And is it as good as the first one? I don't think so. However, it's damn good. I mean, it is cliche to say this, but it's true. I felt like a kid again. I saw the first one when I was 16. I'm now 25. Oh my God. The second the Disney logo showed up and I heard Giacchino's theme, I was transported. I was young again. Not to say I'm not young now, but I was a kid again. I was a teenager again. And it doesn't rely on nostalgia. It doesn't rely on that. It's a new story. It's a great idea. The plot of the movie, I'm not going to get into specifics because they hide a lot in the trailers. Pixar's very good at that. I'll just say from the obvious marketing that they've shown, Riley is now 13. She's growing up. She's changing physically, mentally, and there's new emotions, right? And look, there's a couple retreads from the first movie. You could see some things in the first movie and say, oh, that's probably going to happen in this movie and blah, blah, blah. Right, these things happen. But there are so many smart, ingenuitive ideas within the story and how this world was built. Pixar has been lacking a wholly original idea. And although this is a sequel, they were in their bag. I mean, this was Monsters, Inc., Toy Story, Incredibles level creativity. They reached back into what made Pixar good, and it is that imagination, that Walt Disney imagination. Well, not the bad parts of Walt. I'm sorry to bring him up. Look, is he a good guy? I don't know. Imagination, you get it. And it had magic. It brought me back to the times where Pixar was must-see. And I'm so happy it was for a sequel to one of my favorite movies ever. The voice cast is mostly back. Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader did not come back. It was money, something, I don't know. It's noticeable that they're gone, but it doesn't distract from the movie. You have new voice players like Maya Hawke and other people that I won't spoil because they don't, show up in the marketing, blah, blah, blah. And you have Amy Poehler as Joy. The cast is great. The direction is great. It's a new director this time. New composer, although the music felt just like the first movie and you get those Giacchino motifs. The script is so tight. It's so tight. Again, the first one is, I think, a perfect movie. This one has a few moments where it's like, boy, I wish we could use a thing that would help us, and then there's just a thing. And sometimes it's hilarious, and there are some adult jokes in this movie. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Some kids in the theater were like, huh? But the adults were like, oh my God. It didn't feel like a product. And I think a lot of movies nowadays feel like that. I just watched Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Bill Murray looks like he wants to kill himself. And those movies to me feel like Sony, I'm not picking on Sony, but Sony makes the Ghostbusters movie. So it's like Sony executives are like, well, we got Ghostbusters here. We should probably make a movie. Does anybody have any ideas? Okay, what do you think? What if New York is frozen and we have like 18 Ghostbusters and they're kids and they're adults and they're old? Let's do it. Let's do that one. Let's just do it. It'll take 6 months and we'll just do it. And this one, look, Disney is a corporation. This is a corporate movie made by a big conglomerate movie-making company, right? It took 9 years for them to find the right idea. And it seemed like somebody was like, I got it. This is Inside Out 2. Instead of Pixar being like, we got to do Inside Out 2. What do we got here? It seemed like someone presented an idea they were passionate about, and we were able to execute that over these years. Pixar is very good at taking their time with sequels, waiting until they have the right idea. We're not going to talk about Cars 2, though. And it really showed. It felt like a movie that was made by people happy to have been there to make the movie instead of churning out another generic kids movie or another generic Pixar movie. And it has those beats. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. I definitely teared up many times throughout this movie. Maybe I'll talk about it in the spoilers, but there's a line in particular that's going to hit adults really, really well. And it is, it just makes you remember the time of being a young kid with anxiety, and that stuff doesn't go away. Sometimes you need to feel that way. And that's ultimately why I enjoy these movies so much. The first one came out and I was younger, so I was able to appreciate it still being a younger person. Now I'm a little bit older, a little more life experience, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to get philosophical here. But I could imagine being a parent and taking my kids to see this and watching them learn how to deal with their emotions in such a fun way, but in such an important way. One of the emotions in here is anxiety, and you see how that can take hold of a teenager and turn their whole brain upside down, and how that doesn't go away. But sometimes we need to feel different emotions at certain times. We need to feel sad or angry or envy or joy. It all works together, and that was the lesson of the first one, and this lesson has to do with who you become, your personality, the type of person you want to be, the type of person you are to your friends or to your family or to anybody walking down the street. And I think these movies are important, not to get super sappy, but like kids need these movies in their lives to teach them how to grow up. And I will say, toward the end of the movie, I like to just sometimes like see the reactions that people are having while the movie's going on. And while the big climax of the movie's going on, I saw every single person, mostly adults in my theater, every single person just like this, just getting tissues and just wipe. I mean, it was vintage Pixar. It felt like 2006, like just in their heyday of just churning out bangers. I don't know what their next one is, and I hope we don't go too sequel heavy with all this stuff. I'm so happy that this was a good movie. Go see it. It's worth your time. Again, I don't think it's as good as the first one, but it's its own movie. It doesn't rely on the laurels of the first one. Laurel. What did you just hear there? Damn it, I'll say it. It's great. I'm so happy it's good. I was nervous. Go see Inside Out 2. And bring some tissues. Two more things I'll say real quick on the movie. I think the first one is a little bit better just because it feels bigger and grander in scope and because we had never seen anything like that movie. This one is a little smaller in terms of the story that it's telling, but bigger in terms of the impact it has on Riley, the main character. So it's kind of a give and take. It doesn't mean that it's worse because it's smaller. It just feels maybe a little bit less significant in terms of the story, but more significant in terms of the emotions you're dealing with. And the last thing I'll say is this is a little plot-ish. Like, I didn't know about this when the marketing was happening, so if you don't want to know anything about the plot, run away. But they kind of Toy Story 2'd it in terms of Toy Story doesn't have a villain, really. It has an antagonist in Sid for like an act, not even, but he's not a villain. Like he's not the point of the movie. Toy Story 2 has a villain in Stinky Pete the Prospector. This movie, Inside Out 2, has a villain. The first one does not have a villain. This one has an antagonist, like a straight-up villain, and that's where it feels like they elevated it, right? Where the first one was just telling a story about a main character, this one had an antagonist, and that's where it feels different and its own and it's fresh, and I really appreciated that. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after all, no charge to you. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.